You know, when you think about any modern company, big or small, pretty much everything boils down to its data. So today, we're going to dive into the entire journey of that information, where it comes from, how it all connects, and why really understanding this system is the key to making smarter, faster decisions.
Just think about it for a second. That last big decision you had to make it work. What was it really based on? Was it a gut feeling, maybe a good guess? Or was it built on something a lot more solid?
Well, it turns out that in the world we live in now, the most successful moves, the ones that actually drive real progress, they all share the same starting point. It's right here on the screen. Everything starts with data. It's the foundation for getting clarity and really the only solid ground for taking decisive action.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by figuring out exactly where data even comes from, looking at the stuff from inside and outside a company. Then we'll see how all these different pieces come together to form a bigger data ecosystem. And this is the important part, why the quality of that data and the rules that manage it are what really unlock its true power.
So, first things first. Before we can analyze anything, we've got to understand where it came from. Where is all this information actually born?
A data source is really just the place where data starts its life. And, this isn't always some fancy high-tech server humming away in a data center. It can be a physical process, like a sensor on a factory floor, a digital system, like the app on your phone, or even just a simple human interaction, like someone filling out a survey.
And generally speaking, we can split all these sources into two main buckets. You've got your internal sources, that's all the data your own company creates itself, and then you have external sources, which is everything you gather from the world outside your own four walls. This distinction is absolutely crucial, so let's dig into both.
All right, let's start from the inside out. Internal data is the information that's generated from your company's own daily operations. The best way to think of it is as the digital heartbeat of your business, recording every single thing that happens.
To make this real, let's follow a super simple story. Imagine a customer. They want their morning coffee, and they pull out their phone and use your company's mobile app to place an order. This one simple action is about to create a whole ripple of data. So the very first place this ripple hits is in what we call operational systems. These are the workhorses of the company. Systems like a CRM, which tracks customer relationships, or an ERP, which manages all the core business processes. They're built to capture every little detail of the day-to-day grind.
So, what about that coffee order? Boom! It instantly becomes an official order record. It gets linked to that customer's information. It tells the inventory system that one coffee is gone, and it creates a record for the payment. See? One simple transaction just became multiple, super valuable data points, all logged right inside the company's own systems.
And of course, it's not just about sales. Internally, you're generating data all over the place. You've got it in HR, from performance reviews, in finance with income statements, on the factory floor with data coming off the machines, and on your website, tracking every single click. It's this incredibly rich universe of information, all happening internally.
Okay, so if internal data tells you what's happening inside your company, external data gives you the bigger picture. This is where you find all the context. It's how you start to really hear what the market and your customers are saying.
Let's circle back to our coffee order for a second. That transaction didn't just happen in a vacuum, right? It has echoes and connections to the world outside the company's direct control. So what do those look like?
Well, here we can see how that one coffee purchase connects to a whole universe of external data. Maybe the customer posts a picture of it. That's social media data. The app might use their location to find the nearest store. That's sensor or IoT, Internet of Things data. You can compare your price to your competitors. That's market data. You could even use public government data to understand the population density of that neighborhood. It's all connected. So now we have all these internal sources and all these external sources. But they're not just some random pile of information. They are, or at least they should be, part of a connected, functioning system. And this is what we call the corporate data ecosystem. The key word here is interrelated. It's way more than just a list of databases. Think of it like a living environment where data from all these different sources can be shared and combined to create a much more complete, holistic picture of what's going on. The journey of data through this ecosystem usually follows a pretty clear path. It all starts at the source, right? Then it gets collected and stored somewhere. From there, it's analyzed to find insights, which are then shown in reports or dashboards. And finally, at the end of the line, it informs a decision. This flow is what turns raw data into actual real-world value. But, and this is a big but,
This entire process, this whole beautiful ecosystem we've been talking about, it's only as strong as its weakest link. And that link, more often than not, is the quality of the data itself.
Because just having data isn't enough. We have to start asking some tough questions. Is the source itself reliable? Was the information collected properly? Is it up to date, or are we looking at old news? Is it consistent across our different systems? And maybe most importantly, is it even accurate? If the answer to any of these is no, then you are basically building your entire strategy on a foundation of sand.
It really all boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful chain of events. Bad data leads to bad analysis, which, you guessed it, inevitably leads to bad decisions. The key thing to remember is that data quality isn't just a tech problem for the IT department, it's a fundamental business risk.
So that brings us to our final and maybe most critical piece of the puzzle. To make sure you have high-quality data, to make this whole ecosystem work, you can't just let data run wild. You need rules, and you need accountability.
This is the whole idea behind data governance. It's the framework that answers all the really important questions like, who actually owns this data set? Who's allowed to access it and who isn't? What are our rules for security and privacy? It's all about moving from just collecting data to actively managing it, like the incredibly valuable asset it is.
And that really is the bottom line. If you want to be an organization that makes sharp, insightful, data-driven decisions, you first have to build a strong data ecosystem. It is the absolute non-negotiable foundation for any powerful analytics you hope to achieve.
So, I'll just leave you with this to think about. When you look at your own organization, how strong is your data ecosystem? How well do you really understand where your data is coming from and how clean is the information that's flowing through your systems? The answer to that question could very well determine your next big success.